Well, welcome to the Clifton Worley Show. We have got an episode for you. We've got Josh Fraser, Douglas King, and Michael Newman. What is up, guys?
What's up?
Howdy, y'all.
Howdy, y'all.
Howdy, y'all.
Well, let's start out with kind of catching up to speed. I know we have not done this in a very, very long time. I don't even know when. But we thought it'd be cool to revisit Whirly Birds and hang out again. And so just want to catch everybody up to speed. I guess we'll go around the room here, even though we're not in a real room, a virtual room. And let's let Josh Fraser start, and we'll maybe go to Michael, then Doug, and I'll round that out.
Well, it's been quite a while. Let's see what's happened since the last time. Did quite a few open mics. That's always fun, and you always learn a lot. Recently, been doing one at a different place, kind of a barbecue joint, but it's kind of an upscale barbecue joint, and it's interesting because there's not so many people there, and so you're kind of playing to a quiet, dead room. The times that I've been there. And boy, does that point out your flaws and help you to be a better player, I think. Boy, things that work really well in a room that's like alive and there to see you don't work so well in a room that isn't alive and they're not there to see you. Yeah, that's... It's really interesting. But what's nice about a small room like that is that you can just try new things. And if you bomb, you're already bombing, so it's okay.
Yeah.
You just go up with the mentality like, they're just going to kind of suffer through my 30 minutes of playing until I'm done. And then they'll go back to eating their barbecue. But yeah, that's one of the things I've been doing. And also, I just last Thursday, and this will relate to almost everything I do. I started taking CBD oil, and it has completely changed my mentality about just about everything in a week. It has just completely improved things that I've had trouble with: social anxiety, depression, midlife crisis stuff. Why am I here? What am I doing? Why don't I open a sock shop in Tahiti or something? And then I remember I hate the ocean. So, yeah, oceans are dumb. So that's what's new with me. Oh yeah, that's what's new with me. And I've been really loving the new worship musicians group.
With a Z.
That's been a lot of fun. With a Z.
Yes.
Yep.
With a Z.
Awesome. What about you, Michael?
Well, goodness, life has changed a good bit. I've moved to Mississippi. I am no longer playing at the church I was playing at, and I super miss that. I kind of feel directionless right now with, well, that's not entirely true, but like I'm not practicing. I'm not learning new songs every week or practicing. So to some extent, sitting down with the guitar is I just noodle and that's it. Although one of the things that was new is I got to play with you, Clifton. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so one of the perks of moving to Mississippi is being somewhat closer to you.
Yeah.
You're still a good little ways, but yeah, we've gotten to hang out a couple times, and that's been a lot of fun. So I've really enjoyed that. And that's about it. Well, I am trying to get ready I'm going to lead music for a youth group at the beginning of December with my acoustic. And that's really different. That's a different role that I've played in a larger piece band where I'm just playing, diddly dees on the guitar. Now I'm like, I got to carry it and I got to sing the songs. And so that'll be fun. But that's what's new with me. That's about it.
Cool. What about you, Doug?
I have not been nowhere near as busy as you guys. Mainly what I've been up to really is just selling gear, trading gear, getting rid of stuff. I used to, I think I had 10 guitars at the start of this year, and I'm down to 3 now.
Mm.
But no, me and Jennifer, my wife, was joking the other day about, I looked on my Facebook Marketplace because a lot of the place where I trade a lot of my stuff is on Marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
I've traded over 40 guitars over the last year.
Oh my!
Wow.
Really?
Whoa.
That's impressive.
I didn't realize it was that many until I actually looked, because she's like, I can't even remember what you've played over the last year. And I was like, well, so I went and looked, and I was like, wow. I didn't
That's
realize it was
almost a
that many.
guitar a week, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's nuts.
You should just open a guitar store.
Yeah, probably. I think
Or
I have a
Michael
problem.
already has one, pretty much, or he had one.
Well, I got rid of a lot of gear, so although I still have a lot left.
He started
But
a
anyway,
franchise down where I'm at.
Yeah. I've loaned all of it out to Clifton, basically.
Really?
Yeah, I've been enjoying those videos, Clifton, by the way.
Yeah, I'm
Even though I
gonna.
should be working.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna talk about that in a minute.
But other than selling most of my stuff, I mean, I've actually, to be completely honest, I've been practicing a lot lately.
That's
I've
awesome.
been trying to go back and, learn some of the stuff I should have learned when I first started playing, and actually kind of try to hone my skills so I don't, suck as bad as I do.
Good. I guess I'll try to catch everybody up to speed. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that you guys don't know about me, because we still talk all the time. But yeah, I've been last month or so. Me and Michael have been able to link up probably 2 or 3 times, and he came by. I think it was last week, and you had left me a bunch of gear to try out, and I had it for a couple weeks. I did some demos, and I did a shootout with I think there was like 3 or 4 different types of rats that you had, and I wanted to kind of explore that, and so I did some shootouts with that. And you left a Princeton and a Vox AC10, and so kind of it was cool to play with these amps and the pedals because you could see how they react with the the different types of amps. And I fell in love with the Empress ecosystem, just absolutely in love with it. The GFI Specular Tempest was a lot of fun as well, and I think it Specular Tempest it does delay and reverb, and it really, you could get away with that and like maybe some kind of like amp sim and maybe some overdrive, and like that could be your complete rig. It's that good. But anyways, so I think it was last week you came by and you collected some of that stuff, and you left some other pedals, and I did a live stream because my cousin Tim, he actually bought he sold his Mesa Boogie that he's had like since he was a teenager. It was a big step because he was really, loved that amp. But decided it was time to move on, and he bought this AC10 kind of at my recommendation and see it, after playing your amp, Michael. So I think that's kind of cool. Anyways, he was asking me today. He said, "Hey, look, I got enough money for a pedal. What should I get?" And we were talking about drives and how they interact with that amp. And so I did a big shootout today. I took the HX Stomp and went through all the models of their dirt pedals, and then took the 50/50, and what else did I have? The Schnauz black box, and there's one more. I had the woodcutter.
The woodcutter.
The woodcutter. That's right. And anyways, it was, I don't know how well it turned out, but I thought that it was interesting for me, at least. And I don't know how well it translated. It makes me really, really, okay, so having this idea. Everybody's making YouTube demos, but I don't see a lot of people live streaming. And if it is, it's like such a low quality thing. And I really have an itch that I think I want to somehow, kind of shore up a good rig to just on the fly do these shootouts and stuff, like as I think about them. And it not be like a super formal, like slick production or anything, but it just sounds good, and you can see what you need to see, and it can be interactive. People can ask questions, back and forth, and that's kind of a itch that I want to scratch right now. So as far as anything else, I haven't been. I'm sure you guys have noticed we haven't done the podcast a lot lately. And there's some reasons for that, but the main reason is just kind of needed to recalibrate and pay attention to some other things going on in my life, and so I still going to be doing Clifton Worley show, but probably changing the way I do it and the frequency of it, and so I'm thinking every 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully we get back in and. It won't be an every week thing. So I know some of you guys have been wondering and reaching out, some of the listeners, and just kind of wanted to address that. So that's what's new with me. We've got some topics, huh?
Yeah, boy.
All right. Well, Doug kind of led the charge on this. He had a lot of great ideas. And one of them was, correct me if I'm wrong, was minimizing your rig, right?
Yep. It's something I've been doing a lot lately, actually. It's, and I kind of, to be honest, I stole the idea a lot from RJ, from his, keep it simple, stupid YouTube videos. But, I mean, I've just learned that, while playing live, I mean, most of the time I either play at church or, they have a couple of open mics that I might sit in with a couple of the local guys. But I just noticed it. Because, I used to have a pedal board that had 14 pedals on it, and now I'm down to a pedal board that has 5 because it just, for some reason, in my opinion, don't get me wrong, I love the sounds that I could get out of having all those different things on one pedal board, but I like the simplicity of having just those core sounds that I know I like and I know I will use, and they're all set up to where, and they're pedals that I can use that make it super easy to change stuff and super easy to change the sounds that I'm going for. It just makes it a whole lot simpler. So that's my little bit on that one for the beginning of it. What do y'all think?
Well, I don't know. Let's go with Michael.
Well, I was just thinking when I played with you, Clifton, what was that, about a month ago or so?
Yeah, about a month.
And normally in the past, when I played at Hillcrest, I would set up a rig for each song, like in my Kemper. So like I would have a bank, and then I would have 5 slots in that bank. Now I may only use 2 or 3 slots for a song, but I would have 5 separate, or however many songs, I would have 5 different banks that I would use. Well, when I was kind of going over the songs that we were going to play, I literally, at that time, Tone Junkie had put out this, it's a Marshall Blues Breaker profile, and they put a performance together, and it's just one of the guys who's really, really good at just putting this stuff together. He put out a performance that came along with the pack when you bought it. So I loaded that, and I literally was going to use that, and it had 5 slots in it. But when it came time to play, I literally put it on one slot, crank, and I put it to where, so it was slot 3 or whatever. And if you hit the button again, it morphs, and his was set up to morph into like a higher mix reverb and delay, so it's more washy. I literally left it on that the entire set. And the only thing I changed is I brought the Worley bird and my protein overdrive. And literally I would just, if I felt like we needed to get heavier, I would hit one of those pedals. And that was it. But I was not like, I literally was turning one or two pedals off every once in a while. But for the most part, I just played the song by either digging in harder or laying back. And so that was a lot of fun because it allowed me to just play instead of thinking about, oh gosh, I got to get to the next bank and I got to get to the next slot, or, you know, oh, here comes this really, you know, crazy part I got to make sure I hit. You know, so in a lot of ways, even with the Kemper, I made it more simple to where I loaded something that was already kind of pre-made, and all I did was brand a couple. And I really could have not even used the pedals. I like pedals, and so I like to brand them. And I wanted to actually play a Worley bird with Clifton, so. So, you know, but I really could have just set the Kemper up and with my remote and been fine, but I wanted to do that. But anyway, and I will also say this: I played at Hillcrest probably 2 weeks after that, and they needed somebody, and I was going to end up being I was going to be in Florida anyway, and so I played, and I brought the Kemper, and I brought the pedal board that goes with it, the remote. And then I had like 3 or 4 pedals, including my volume pedal that went with it. And I had problems with the signal. I was like, like we're practicing before. And like, I'm trying to like quickly figure out why am I not getting any sound, which pedal is. I thought a pedal was messed up. I ended up figuring it out, but it was just like, why am I doing this to myself? Just run into the volume pedal, from the volume pedal into the Kemper, and that would have been all I needed. So anyway, so I had a moment of, this is too complicated. I need to simplify this. So I've kind of had two experiences, you know, within a few weeks of each other. So anyway, so keeping it simple, you can even keep it simple with a rig like the Kemper if you want to.
And see, that's rad too, because I mean, there's so much you can do with the Kemper, and to be able to, you know, just have it all set up to where you need it, but then only use simple patches or whatever the Kemper calls the profiles or whatever they are. But it's just cool that you can do that with. I mean, because I mean that thing does all kinds of stuff, but it's cool to hear that you can just use it for simple things too, and just make it easy so you can actually. Because I mean that's really what. In my mind, I was thinking when I was talking about simplifying your rig, I'm able to concentrate more on what I'm playing instead of my pedals that I'm trying to use to play with. I'm actually able to focus on dynamics and focus on, you know, the techniques that I'm trying to use and stuff like that instead of, you know, doing tap dance.
For me, I've always kind of just built a fundamental tone, and then turned on or off pedals or played harder and softer, you know? So it's like, I'll have right now I've actually got the heaviest pedal board I've had in a long time. I added my volume pedal back on. I put on the Mojo again. Let's see what else. I put a compressor on in addition to all my other pedals. And basically what I do now is I take all of those pedals that I added, like basically the compressor's always on, the Mojo's always on. My Buffalo's always on. And then, heck, the reverb I have is always on almost. And the delay, I like to set up a nice subtle delay, and that's almost always on as well. Just so that, and it kind of disappears when I'm playing more complex stuff. Everything is. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm turning on and off my boost or on and off my distortion. And then I'm using I have a Worley volume pedal. And I've kind of never really liked the thing. And so I took some felts, some like chair felts that you put underneath it, and underneath chairs and stuff. And I put them underneath the back side of that pedal so it would never go to zero. And I use that as my clean tone or my rhythm tone. And I use it all the way up as my lead tone. But what's cool is you can actually take that and you push down hard enough on the back end of it, and it compresses those felts. And then you let go, and it'll swell itself. The felts will like kind of, the felts will kind of pop it back up really slow. And so that's what I've been doing lately. And it's actually, I think I played last Sunday and I didn't turn a pedal on or off except for my tremolo. I just used the volume pedal the whole time.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
it was like, it's like, holy cow, I see why everybody wants one of these things. I still hate the pedal, but it's with my arch top, I purposely didn't put any knobs on it at all. So having that little bit of a swing in volume is kind of necessary.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really helped. Just kind of simplifying the way that I do it, because I was tap dancing before a little bit, because I was thinking, well, it's really important that I turn off this delay. It's really important that I turn off the reverb at this point, or I want it to be very clean here. But you know what? At the end of the day, this sound is almost the same almost the whole time for the people out in the congregation, out in the audience. They do not notice it.
Nope.
And so I'm thinking, well, what's the point of me tap dancing, maybe hitting something wrong and then feeling bad for the rest of that song because I feel like I messed up, or worse yet, a little bit of static builds up in one of those buttons and I hit it and it pops, and it goes pop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, man.
so yeah, it's just basically, the other thing is that we had one of the fellas leave and go to Tennessee, and when he left, I got a mic, and so I'm singing more, and so it's kind of nice to be able to not be thinking about my pedals while I'm singing and playing and doing leads.
Absolutely.
It's kind of nice. But yeah, for sure. So that's my thought on it, is basically, if I was going straight into an amp, like it sounds like Doug is doing a lot, if he goes somewhere and plays at an open mic or at a church. Are you using an amp situation there, Doug?
Yeah, I usually
Yeah.
either take. I actually, if I play the little local coffee shop that I play in, is small enough, I can actually use my little AC4.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, and usually I just bring the little Nomad that's got my like 5 core pedals that I'm going to use in whichever guitar I'm feeling that day.
See, if
And
I was using an amp, I would need like 3 pedals or 4 pedals.
Yeah.
Because your basic fundamental sound, I mean, I could go the Kemper route or something, but that's just not me. Your fundamental sound, when you run a guitar direct into a board, isn't good.
Yeah.
I like doing it because it really shows you how bad you are, and I always like to hear that. But
Josh, would you
But-
want the Iridium? Would that would that consolidate some of your pedals into one?
I listened to it, and
strums.
I listened to it, and I don't think so, man. It just doesn't do anything for me. Listening to all the reviews of it, it's
Yeah.
like, that's my thing. It's like I listen to it, and it's like, man, it just has no character whatsoever to me. I would rather have an HX Stomp, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
that's-
sound all the reviews. It sound everybody who plays that sounds like themselves.
Yep.
That plays an HX Stomp. Ryan from 60 Cycle Hum, he always sounds like Ryan going through that thing. Cliff sounds like Cliff when he goes through it. Michael sounds like Michael. And I like that. I don't like when everything sounds the same, and I don't think the Iridium does that. But it just doesn't have that sparking, that character where I think that the HX Stomp really nails it. And I could probably go with that. But even then, I kind of like the granularity of being able to set up. Okay, well, this pedal I'll push the mids really hard with this pedal, and then I'll push the front end really, really hard on the Buffalo to make it overdrive, which is what I've been doing. I just push that front end so hard that the circuit in there is just freaking out, and I can get some really interesting crunchy overtones. For me, I mean, it probably wouldn't be noticeable to anybody else, but I mean, isn't that gear in general?
Yeah.
It's just not
Yes.
noticeable to anybody else.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
exactly. It's really more for the player. I mean, that's like what you were saying earlier. When you're playing and the congregations or the audience or whoever's listening to you play, they couldn't care less what you're playing through because they're not going to notice the difference between like a 50-50 or a or a mojo, or they don't have a clue.
No.
They just know whether they like that sound or they like the song that you're playing, or they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really the big thing that you get is either, and for me has been volume. Either they heard you or they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they noticed your leads and like, oh wow, that was really good while you did that intro to that song. Or they're like, well, I had some trouble hearing you.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the biggest thing is that, okay, well, that little being in control of your volume is huge, you know, and having a pleasant sound when you're up there. It's like that meme that you posted there, Doug. What you think you sound like and what you actually sound like. I actually feel like it's the reverse.
Yeah, you know, to be honest, you know, when Jennifer showed me that, the original girl that posted that was actually talking about her singing.
I see that.
So I kind of stole it because Jennifer sent it to me. She said, "Is this what you think?" I was like, "Actually, if I was going to be honest, I think I'd rather be the molten lava dude." But I mean, I still thought it was funny though.
Yeah, yeah. And it's for me, it's like, okay, I think I have way too much hair on these notes. I think I'm really blasting out like too much drive, and I'm not a drive guy to start with. But then my then the team will say, no, we need more of that, and then you know more of that sound. It's like, holy cow, okay, well I guess, but but yeah, I mean that's an interesting thing. I don't think we've heard from Clifton yet.
Yeah, I was saving it all. I have some thoughts about keeping it simple. I'll start with this. Right before Summer Naum, I sold off a huge part of my pedal board. Like, I kind of, you know, part of it was like to come up so I could, you know, pay to go to NAMM with cash. And the other part was, I was like, well, I'm kind of bored with what I have. And I kind of clean slated a little bit. And the thing was, like, I was happy with my tone, but like at the same time, like when it came to like delays and reverb and all that, like I really felt like I needed to update my sound in that regard. Like there's just so much more available than there was like, you know, 4 or 5 years ago. And that's kind of the age of my rig was kind of like that. I had a lot of older pedals. And so for a while, like I've been without most of my pedals except for a few drives. Like, you know, I had the Worley Bird, of course, and I had that DS1 that Sean Wright did from Lollygagger. He modded for me, and I had the stack. But other than that, like, I was kind of just clean slated. And so it's been fun to, you know, try some of these pedals that Michael has, and kind of get an idea of what I might want to, you know, do next with my pedals. That being said, I'm really toying with coming up with a direct option, because the plan with my Princeton, I love my Princeton, I'm not going to get rid of it, not in the foreseeable future. But the thing about that I've been struggling with is I'm not playing my electrics at all in the church context because of that. And I really want to get a direct option so I can start doing that again, you know, and it doesn't bother the sound guy and people on stage. And so I was playing with the AHX Stomp. First of all, it's a little bit of a learning curve. I took like a half a day and just kind of went through it, and it was really helpful, like the editor that you can download to that kind of be your first thing you do, because it kind of gave you an idea what the index inside that, the, you know, all the menus and everything, the way like the file tree went, if that makes sense. And once I knew kind of what was in that box, then you go and you form out your blocks, and I think it was like 5 or 6 blocks is all it can do. But even like some of the amp and cab blocks, like a pretty heavy duty, so you might have to like only do like 3 or 4 blocks. And I think here's the thing about the HX Stomp. I think it's really cool as an amp sim, like by itself. And if you want to capitalize on the fact that it has some really cool delays and reverbs in there that sound really great, and there's some models of overdrive pedals too, or modulations, whatever. But you can kind of build a bass tone with it. And then if you want to take some of your other pedals and play with it, well, even better, right? So it literally, I could see it saving a lot of room on a pedal board, especially, you know, it's not a bad investment considering what you'd spend to get all those other things. So I think it's a good route to go. Now I had a hunch, and I did a live stream of this where yesterday I took a Line 6 Spider that I had from like, good grief, probably like 2005 or something. And I hooked it up direct, like headphone out to a direct box to the front of house and compared them. And I'm not going to say that it sounded as good as the HX Stomp, but what was interesting about it was so familiar sounding. Like the blackface in it sounded just like the blackface. The Vox, or the crunchy setting, sounded almost identical to the amp sim in the HX Stomp. The metal one sounded like a Marshall, like JCM 800 or something. I don't know what the insane one, if they were like trying to do
a beehive.
Yeah, it just sounded like a beehive. And it like when I went beehive, and then like you could go like turbo beehive, like where you press the insane and the tap tempo button at the same time, and it clicks into like an extra gain stage, and like you could hear like your pickups like turning microphonic and squealing through the front of house. It was that bad. But
that's not bad, that's rad.
Yeah, depends on what, I guess. It's not good for P-dub at all.
Christian you melting faces at the congregation, man.
Yeah, that's funny. But the architecture was there, you know. It was very similar, and you know, here's my thing is like, maybe I ought to try playing direct with the Spider for a while and see if I like it, you know? And then, like, if that's not doing it for me, like, get the HX Stomp. But, but, you know, keeping it simple, look, the thing is, like, there's so much, like, cheap gear out there that people, like, have stopped using because it's not cool anymore.
100%, yeah.
And it's, like, it's still good stuff. And it's, you know, it doesn't have to be, look, we have a guitarist at church. He's been playing with us for like 6 months. And I'd say up until like a month or 2 ago, he was strictly he was borrowing my telly and plugging into a solid state PV amp and playing straight into amp. And it sounded good. I had a Dan Electro Fab Overdrive that had laying around being unused, and I, you know, kind of threw it at him, and he's plugging into that directly to amp, and you know, that's his gain stage, and he sounds fine. Like, it's, you know, it's not ambient sounding, but he's good, and it sounds good, and this made me really kind of think, hey, maybe I've been making this too complicated, you know. Like, I don't have to have all these bells and whistles. Like, you just need good, solid tone. And, you know, it's cool. Like, I want to play, like, I played the Ecosystem, and, like, I was like, that's really cool. That's rad. Like, I don't think I've played any other pedal like that, you know? But am I going to use that? I don't know, you know? So yeah, I've been really purging and dialing back, trying to rethink the way I play guitar, and you know, so that's kind of where I'm at on it. There was another direction we wanted to talk about, and I think this kind of leads right into it. We were talking about when you're burnt out with gear, what do you do? Gear burnout. And so let's go around the circle again, and we'll start with you, Doug.
When I'm burnt out with gear, I trade it or I sell it. You know, I think Paul was the one that asked me this. He's like, "You don't have a connection with nothing, do you?" I said, "No." I said, "It's not that I don't have a connection with it. It's just I don't really, it's just gear." When at the end of the day, I mean, I'll probably get some hate on this because everybody knows how much I love pedals, but at the end of the day, I mean, really what matters is the guitar you're plugging into whatever amplifier. The pedals are just an extra thing I like to add just because I'm a nerd. But I mean, when I get burnt out on gear, I mean, the thing that I had to try to do recently, and that's why I've been, trying to practice a lot more lately, is because I learned that I was focusing so much on the gear that I was spending the majority of my time that I could have been playing or could have been practicing. I was spending it on Instagram, or I was spending it on Reverb, or, all these other places, just literally wasting my time not doing anything but looking at gear. And, recently I've been actually, picking up the guitar and, practicing, learning some new songs, trying to learn some new techniques, and trying to, improve my playing instead of, focusing so much on the gear that I use. I'll let somebody else go now. I probably made some people mad.
No, you're good. Right. I agree with.
No.
I'm not talking to you anymore, Doug.
That's what the silence was.
we're all like figuring out how we can disown Doug.
As far as being burnt out in gear, I just let Clifton borrow it. And then I hear him play it.
Good.
I hear him play it, and I say, "Well, why can't I get it to sound like that? Give me that back."
Oh man.
Let me try that again. I don't know. I tend to hoard things, and so when I get burnt out in gear, I just put it in a drawer. And about 3 or 4 or maybe 6 months later, I'll say, "Oh, I have this thing. Let me try it again. Oh, this is nice. Why did I have it in a drawer?" So I don't know. I'm in a very weird stage in my gear journey. I mean, the only thing I've gotten for a while is really strings and one of those G7 capos, and that's about it. So, I'll say this. With the Kemper, things are a little different. Instead of buying pedals, I buy profiles. I'm like, oh, Tone Junkies just came out with a Tweed Deluxe. Oh, let me try this thing. Oh, he also has this. And then, another profiler came out with these. Let me try this. And a lot of times I can get those for free, especially Tone Junkie. He puts out a lot of like free stuff with every pack he does. So it's just, instead of focusing on practicing, I just click on a different button, and it sounds a little different. Although at the end of the day, and I think Josh might agree, it all sounds the same to a certain extent to the audience. And I think that's one thing I've come to with the Kemper, and I always talk about Kemper, but it allowed me to explore a bunch of different sounds and then find the one that I wanted, and now I just kind of stick with that. And but I'm not really burnt out on the Kemper per se, but I'm not like going in and trying every delay preset that's available or every reverb preset that's available. I've found a couple things that I like, and I stick with it. And pedals, I love pedals, but I could leave them at home and be okay. And I don't really feel burnt out with gear, but I just don't feel like it's a focus right now. And really, guitar in general is not a focus for me right now. So I don't know. I'm in a weird place, I feel. Well,
yeah, I mean, and that's the beauty of the Kemper at the same time. I mean, I'm kind of in the vein of, that's the profilers and the stuff like that. Because, I mean, the closest thing to any kind of profiler that I've had was the Line 6 HD 500X or whatever it was that had the different profiles and stuff on it. I mean, it was cool because of all the stuff you could do with it, but it wasn't my bag. It wasn't what I was into. But I mean, the good thing about having stuff like that is you can try all of these different things out of just this one purchase. And I mean, now that intrigues me, but I don't know if I could ever do Kemper.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, I'll say this. Now that I've played the Kemper, it's giving me, like, if I were to go back to an amp and a few pedals and a guitar, I know exactly what I get because I know what I want.
Exactly.
Before, I didn't know what I wanted. I just, I've heard these are good. Let me buy this Supro amp because I've heard they're good. Oh, well, I play it and it's like, well, it's good, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. Oh, let me get this Fender Princeton. Oh, it's good too, but it's not quite what I'm looking for. Oh, let me get this Vox AC10. Oh, I really like this thing. I think I'm more of a Vox person than anything else at this point because I've played so many different profiles. But this is taking a different approach, or I've gone off course. So if anybody wants to bring it back on course, to be burned out with gear, go ahead.
I think that's my fault. My bad.
I think it's my fault.
For me, I get, honestly, I rarely plug in unless I'm practicing for something. And I barely pick up any of my other guitars rather than my archtop. And it's been ever since I got it, that's been pretty much it. And what I get burned out on right now is different things like picks. I'll try a bunch of different picks. I moved up to 13s, which makes me really happy. I'm thinking about 14s, but I'm not sure yet. But the 13s feel really nice on it, and they make it so I can only bend about a step, which is good. As far as what happens to me is I tend to get frustrated with my sound more than anything. And it's frustrated with the sound because I'm listening to it in ears on Sunday. And it's like, okay, this all sucks. So I'll pull my pedal board apart, I'll rearrange it, and I'll put it back together and see if it sounds better. And then I'll do that again and again and again and again. And that's how I came up with my current thing. But then I look at things like the HX Stomp, and I'm thinking, man, that'd be a heck of a lot easier. And the only thing I'm really, really burnt out on right now is my acoustic pedal. It sounds good, but it doesn't really sound like me, I feel like. And so that's the whole thing. If it doesn't sound like me, it's going to go because.
And what pedal is that?
I'm using a Zoom A3, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. And it was one that they did in between their old green pedals. They did the kind of these silver, when they put out the multi-stomp, the silver metal pedal.
Yeah.
They also put out a bigger acoustic version of that.
Yeah.
And it basically does a lot of what the Fishman Aura does. It's kind of a direct competitor with the Fishman Aura. And so I can really get pretty close acoustic sounding by picking like a small bodied acoustic guitar and then EQing it, cutting out some bass to get my archtop sound. But I feel like I don't like having two things. I would love to be able to have one pedal board that does everything. And I would love to also be able to just have something I can fit into a small backpack for everything, rather than, and have the same 4 buttons that I can push, and that'll be it. But that being said, it's really, I guess for me, the gear is substituting for something that I feel like I'm missing, like I'm missing the sound of an amp, when I'm playing on Sunday. And so I put a bunch of drives on there to kind of give that character. And then I do not like the sound of a piezo pickup going into anything. So that's why I've got the A3, and and my archtop has a humbucker on it, because I just cannot stand those ultra high frequencies that come out of a piezo, I don't care how good your piezo is. There are some frequencies that dogs can hear that unfortunately I can hear, and they drive me crazy. And it's like,
so you're
I'll
half
hear.
dog. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I do go get a hold of things and kind of carry them around like a bone to pick, for sure. But
that's all I'm asking.
in the tail? No, I had that removed a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay,
But seriously though, I mean, for me, that's the whole thing with a piezo pickup. I mean, I love my Martin, but I don't like to play it when it's plugged in because the piezo just sounds so garbage. It sounds like garbage because it's just too much high-end twang and too much high-end quack. And I can get rid of it with effects, but then it just stops sounding like the guitar and it loses its dynamics. Yeah. I feel I have more dynamic range with the humbucker going into an acoustic pedal than I do with an acoustic guitar going into an acoustic pedal.
Yeah. We'll have some thoughts on that, but I'll let you finish.
No, I'm actually done.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I had some issues. Those are my big issues. It's like, yeah, if I played my pedals more, if I played my electric rig more instead of just practicing everything acoustically and then plugging it on Sunday, then I think I would definitely start to get burned out with my sound because I'd hear myself louder. One nice thing about an arch top is it pushes your sound out, and so it doesn't come right at your face.
Yeah.
And so you kind of like, yeah, I guess I can hear what I'm doing, and you don't get annoyed with yourself so much because you can't hear yourself as much. But then if you stand facing a wall, then it's way too loud. You're like, oh no, no, that's me. I don't like that. Anyway, what about you, Cliff?
I had another thought on your rig. You're talking about making it more simple, but like if you had, I know, like, okay, and this is something I was thinking about doing, is taking the effects loop on my LR Bags Venue and running, like taking the HX Stomp and running it through that one, or vice versa. Like, I think if I could figure out how to do it, I could make it where I could just swap guitars and use either one, like just in line with each other, and it would pick up on the other, or like I could use the effects on the HX Stomp through my acoustic pedal board, or then like I could possibly like kick on with the foot switch, like kick on the HX Stomp and like with an electric guitar, and like have a dual rig with very little amount of gear, just hooking it up right. So that's something I'm going to be exploring.
It seems like with something like that, you could do like IRs too. You could just say, okay, well, I'm going to have an acoustic IR right there, and it's going to be one patch, and you just go up one patch and all your acoustic stuff's right there, and you go down one patch bay and your electric stuff's right there, and you go down one more patch bay and your solo stuff is right there for like playing solo. Where that and hearing the sound of that thing, I don't hear that high-end digital hiss that I hear in most things that I hear digitally. There's this just annoying hiss that's there that does not belong there, that makes dogs howl. But you don't hear that. You don't hear that in the HX Stomp. It sounds analog. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talking about, and we got it here about 10 minutes to hit the hour. Me dealing with gear burnout, I was trying to think, how I deal with it, and first of all, I don't think I deal with it very well. I tend to get stuck on something in a loop and won't get off of it, and sometimes I have to have like a new experience to get me out of a rut, if that makes sense. And a lot of times it really, for me, something that helps get me out of a rut is playing with different people. If you start playing with a different group of people, your role kind of changes and you need different gear, right? Like if you're playing the same gig every week and you're using, this works just fine for me, you get tired of it because it's like eating the same meal every week, right? having the same Sunday dinner or something. But if you're constantly changing and the mix of people's different and whatever, and so that's kind of like, as a musician, that's kind of where my head at is, getting new experiences like all the time, and not doing the same thing over and over and over again. Like, and that's harder to do, especially like when you're middle aged and you got so much other stuff going on in life. Like, it's hard to get together with people and rehearse so that you sound tight. But that's how like I'm kind of digging out of some of my ruts. I think has been playing with some different people. I'm thinking about like who else could I start rehearsing with or whatever. From a worship leader's perspective, like playing with different people instead of the same ones all the time, but also like getting in different situations too, like where you're learning different types of songs. And I might play an acoustic guitar every Sunday, but I might be in another situation where I need to play electric or I need to play bass in another situation. So that's kind of been my key, I think, to I get stuck in ruts and I kind of have to get out of them. Hey, we got any other thoughts on that subject?
That is huge, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, dang, man.
So it's like we all just sit here and talk and blah 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 blah. Then Clifton comes in and says, "Now fellas, this is the truth.
let me drop this bomb on the front end. Boom.
Y'all been foolish."
Oh man, it's the Southern Yoda, right?
Yeah, because that is what's been the biggest change in my playing. He's playing in different venues, playing songs I wouldn't play normally, playing with other people. There's been that I've not played with before, playing with way better people than I am. Has been huge, and I'm sure that Michael and Doug will agree with everything you said there.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
No.
Totally hard disagree.
Hard pass.
The best thing you can do is sit in your basement and play and then do YouTube comments, right?
Yes.
best thing
Play
to do
Crazy
is-
Train and do YouTube comments.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We kind of, that could be applied to gear groups as well. Like, we get stuck in a rut and we're hanging out. It's kind of like, okay, I'm going to go to the same little hangout every day and talk to the same people. And, we tend to be contrarians when we start getting our middle age, right? And we want to hang out with the
No,
same
I'm not.
people and
Hey, wait a second. I can't be that old now.
Well, you're
I'm
a little
only
bit younger,
29.
aren't you?
I'm only 29.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're the youngest of
Enjoy your
the.
last year.
I'm the young
old,
gun.
Old curmudgeon.
Just wait for that midlife crisis, man.
Let's say.
But
Sorry.
but I was gonna say, like, it could be applied to groups too. Like, we need to be growing, like, and catching new experiences, and like, we can't keep hashing out the same things, like, and debating it, like we're evolving and moving on and should be learning. And sometimes we outgrow a circle and we got to extend our reach and go to like a maybe spend some time in another pond, and see what you can draw from over there. And so like, it's this whole social media thing is just like so fluid, and like, we don't know what's gonna stick and what's gonna, we don't know what's like around the corner 6 months from now, like what we'll be discussing and talking about. But like, it's changing all the time. But like, it's also like people, like, if we get it, we have to be, if we want to grow in our pursuit of knowledge, we have to be interacting people with different opinions, and people who are come from a different perspective as a musician. And I think it's like that's another way to like get out of a rut. So there I am, the philosophical cliff.
You should put some like organ music behind you for this part. On that part. Now this is everything we've talked about for the past 50 minutes has been leading up to this. This is where you're wrong, boys.
Yep.
That's your foghorn leghorn for a moment.
It's been fun, man.
It's been
Now,
real.
boy, let me tell you. Oh.
Yeah. So. So it's been interesting, but I think it's good to. I think there's such a rush I think we can get when we get out of those ruts, and it's have some new experiences, and so that's why I encourage everybody. Like, it's going to be different for each and every one of us, but we've got to find whatever it is that sparks our interest and kind of keeps our journey going. And we're talking about musical journeys, right? So
Yeah.
Well, guys, do we have anything other comments before we wrap this thing up?
Nah, man, I think you summed it up good.
All
The
right.
Eagles suck.
Well, I've been listening to a lot of Fleetwood Mac lately, and I know you would be disappointed.
Oh, they
in
suck too. Been playing a red guitar, I imagine, too.
Say what you done.
All right, guys.
me. Well, dig into that Christmas music. It's coming around the corner.
For sure.
Oh no, it's already here. I've been listening to Christmas music for a while now. So
Oh, goodness.
Give us
bunch of,
give it,
bunch of
listeners.
Scrooges.
Give us your thoughts, comments, prayers, likes, whatever, concerns.
dislikes, complaints.
You can send them to Michael Newman.
And I will agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree. That's awful. Somebody should do something about that.
Oh, man.
All
Get
right,
off
well,
my lawn now.
it's been a fun time, guys. I appreciate y'all for hopping on, and I hope our listeners like it. And if you like what you've heard, and you're a first time listener, you can go find us over at the Clifton Worley Show group on Facebook, or follow us on Instagram, and stay connected. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, guys.